All right, buckle up because we are diving into the world of AI agents. You're keen on this, and you sent over AI agents that matter.
Yeah.
Juicy research paper.
It's a good one.
This isn't just some light reading.
No.
These researchers throw some serious shade at how we're measuring AI agents right now.
Yeah, what's really interesting is they argue that everyone's so focused on accuracy that they're missing the bigger picture,
Okay.
especially cost. And that's a big deal, not just for the brainiacs building these things, but for you, for anyone who wants to actually use them in the real world.
Right. It's like bragging about a self-driving car that takes a team of mechanics and $1 million worth of fuel just to go around the block.
Right.
Impressive maybe, but not exactly practical. This paper dives right into this with the human evil benchmark.
Yeah.
Familiar with that one?
Oh, yeah. It's a clever way to see how well an agent can actually code.
Okay.
Imagine giving an AI a coding problem and some basic tests. Can it write code that passes?
Right.
That's what human evil is all about.
Okay, so they've got this benchmark, and they decide to pit these super sophisticated coding agents things with names like LATS reflection and LDB against some surprisingly simple solutions, almost like having a robot duel against a guy with a calculator.
Yeah, and get this, sometimes the calculator wins.
What?
They found that simply prompting a language model a bunch of times with slight variations, like asking it to try again, but with a slightly different tone of voice, often outperform these complex agents on human evil.
Oh, hold on. You're telling me that these AI agents with all their fancy algorithms are being outsmarted by something as simple as telling a language model to take another crack at it?
It's a bit like that, yeah. And this is where it gets really interesting for you. It suggests that maybe, just maybe, we're getting a bit carried away with building the most complex AI when sometimes a bit of brute force, in this case multiple runs, can be just as good.
So what does this mean for the future of AI? Are we all doomed to just keep building bigger, more expensive models?
Not necessarily. Complex architectures have their place, but this research screams a vital question. Are we focused on the right things? This paper wants us to consider cost as a core metric right alongside accuracy. Think of it like this. You're building an AI agent to, for example, and this is where it gets really cool, maybe design a website, run a marketing campaign, or even just manage your inbox. Wouldn't you want it to be both accurate and affordable? That's the sweet spot they're talking about.
Right, because a brilliant AI that breaks the bank is about as useful as a chocolate teapot. This idea of optimizing for accuracy, A&D costs, that's game-changing, especially for anyone building or using these AI agents. And the researchers didn't just talk about it, they actually put it into practice. They took this framework called DSPi, which you might have heard of, and tweaked it to factor in both accuracy and cost on a well-known question-answering benchmark.
And the results are pretty impressive.
Okay.
We're talking potentially cutting the cost of running these AI agents by over 50% while keeping the accuracy the same.
Okay, now we're talking 50% cost reduction. That's massive, especially if you're running this stuff at scale. Those savings would be huge. But this all raises another question. Are we even testing these agents correctly in the first place? Let's dive into this whole benchmark issue because it sounds like things might be even shakier than we thought.
So remember how we were talking about cost optimization? It's not just about being cheap.
Right.
It's about understanding where your investment goes. Think of it like building a car.
Okay.
You've got the initial cost, designing the engine, tooling the factory.
Right.
Those are fixed. But then there's the cost per mile fuel maintenance. With AI agents, it's similar.
Okay, I'm seeing the parallel here. So with AI, the fuel would be how much it costs to actually run the thing once it's built right. And what this paper is saying is that we're so focused on building the fastest engine, we're forgetting to check the gas mileage.
Exactly. And that's where this DSPi thing comes in, by carefully choosing which examples to use during training. Like giving the AI a really good set of flashcards to study, they managed to drastically cut down on the fuel costs of running the agent.
Okay, but how much of a difference are we talking here? Was it like a 5% improvement? Because honestly, that wouldn't be that impressive.
Oh, it was way more than that. We're talking a 50% reduction in running costs for GPT 3.5 compared to the standard way of doing things, all without sacrificing accuracy. That's like filling your tank once and driving twice as far.
Wow. Okay, 50% is huge.
Yeah.
Especially if you're using these agents for big, complex tasks.
Yeah.
But this isn't just about saving money, is it? It changes the whole game when it comes to designing these things.
Yeah.
It's like finding a cheat code for both performance and budget. Which makes you wonder if we can achieve this much by tweaking the training. What other shortcuts are we missing?
That's the million-dollar question. And it's actually the next point this paper tackles head-on. Are we even testing these AI agents in a way that reflects real-world use? And the answer, well, it's a bit unsettling.
Oh no, unsettling how? You're going to tell me that our fancy AI agents are basically just really good at taking standardized tests, but can't handle real-life situations? Because that's kind of what it sounds like.
You're not wrong to be concerned. The researchers dove into this whole benchmark thing, and they found some pretty glaring flaws.
Yeah.
Specifically, they argue that many of these benchmarks are riddled with shortcuts, and these shortcuts are leading to AI agents that look a lot smarter on paper than they are in practice. It's like that student who aces every test by memorizing the answers but can't explain the concepts to save their life.
Okay, that's a terrifying thought.
Yeah.
Give me an example. How are these benchmarks being gamed?
Let's talk about Web Arena. This benchmark is designed to see how well an AI agent can interact with websites. Navigating pages, finding information, filling out forms, basically all the stuff we do online every day.
All right, so Web Arena is supposed to be like a simulation of the real internet.
That sounds pretty challenging to me.
You'd think so, but here's where it gets wild. There was this top-performing agent, right, called Step, absolutely crushing it on the Web Arena leaderboard. Everyone's amazed by it.
Okay, so what's the catch? There's always a catch. So we've got this superstar AI agent, Step, dominating the Web Arena benchmark.
Right.
It's got to be crazy advanced, right? What's the secret sauce?
Well, imagine finding out that Step aced the internet simulation, not because it truly understood how websites work, but because the developers basically gave it a set of pre-programmed instructions for every single task on the Web Arena test.
Hold on, you mean they basically gave Step all the answers ahead of time?
Kind of, yeah.
That's not just taking a shortcut, that's straight up cheating. Well, it's not quite that black and white. The Step team was actually really transparent about their approach. Their focus was on building these modular components like little Lego blocks of AI for specific web tasks. And in that context, pre-programming makes sense. But when you put Step on a leaderboard that's supposed to measure general web browsing ability, it creates this illusion that it's far more capable than it actually is.
It's like winning a cooking competition when you brought a pre-made meal, right? Impressive, sure, but not exactly in the spirit of the competition.
Exactly. And this is why this whole benchmark problem is so crucial, because if we're not careful, we end up with these AI agents that are basically masters of gaming the system, but totally useless in the real world.
So how do we fix it? How do we make sure these benchmarks actually test what they're supposed to test?
The paper suggests a two-pronged approach. First, we need much tougher tests, specifically holdout sets.
Okay.
This means holding back a chunk of the benchmark data stuff the agents have never seen before and using that as the real test.
Yeah.
And I'm not just talking about slightly different versions of the same task. I mean, entirely new challenges that force the AI to think on its feet.
Got it. No more memorizing the answers? What's the second thing?
We need to be crystal clear about what we're actually trying to measure. Are we testing an AI's ability to book a flight, or are we testing its ability to handle any task on the internet?
Right.
Those are wildly different levels of intelligence. Imagine judging a fish on its ability to climb a tree, right? We need benchmarks that actually align with the specific skills we're trying to develop.
Because a fish that can book a flight online, well, that's a whole different kettle of fish.
Yeah.
All of this has been incredibly insightful, but there's one thing that's been bugging me throughout this whole discussion. We keep talking about AI agents in isolation, but the reality is we're going to be interacting with these things constantly, right? So shouldn't that factor into how we evaluate them?
Yeah, you're hitting on a crucial point that often gets overlooked, the human element. Right now, most benchmarks focus on either pure chatbots or fully autonomous agents. But the future is probably going to be somewhere in between, with AI agents working alongside humans, not just for us.
It's like how we use AI tools today. We're constantly providing feedback, whether we're tweaking an autocomplete suggestion or telling a music streaming service to play something different. We're shaping how the AI behaves.
And there's growing evidence that even a little bit of human feedback can dramatically boost an AI agent's performance. So by solely focusing on these isolated benchmarks, we might actually be underestimating what AI agents can achieve when they're working in tandem with humans.
So what you're saying is the real test for AI agents might not be how well they play the game alone, but how well they play with others.
Exactly.
That's a pretty exciting thought. We've gone from questioning the very foundation of how we measure AI agents to realizing that maybe, just maybe, the most powerful AI of the future isn't one that replaces us, but one that works alongside us.
It's a really interesting thought, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's the beauty of deep dives like this. We've unpacked this research, uncovered some uncomfortable truths, and come out the other side with a whole new perspective on the future of AI.
And for anyone listening who's feeling that same sense of awe and maybe a little bit of healthy fear, that's a good thing, because the future of AI isn't something that's just going to happen to us. It's something we're building together. And the more informed we are, the better equipped we'll be to shape that future. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll see you next time.